Hey howdy, hey now gamers. Today we'll be discussing quite the title from the early 2000s, a game that I frequently played during my school days instead of paying attention to the communist propaganda spewed daily by the teachers. Metroid Fusion. It's a game that's almost 20 years old, just like everything else I seem to talk about. The fourth main entry in the Samus saga, and my personal introduction to this series, which undoubtedly contributed to my unholy thoughts concerning tall, physically fit girls. The game starts with Samus coming into contact with a mysterious new virus. It quickly takes over her nervous system and causes her to crash into an asteroid belt. I'm not gonna say it this time, guys. I'm better than that. She requires extensive surgery to combat the deadly parasite, having whole sections of her armor removed in a risky life or death operation that fundamentally changes her genetic makeup to— oh, she's still hot?
No.
Moving on then. You're tasked with exploring a derelict space station because alien reference or something, and wouldn't you know, things go wrong. The X-parasite has spread all across the station, and worse still, it's evolved. You and your trusted AI companion do your best to salvage what you can and eliminate the new threat before it gets out of hand. Or at least that's your plan anyway. But something dangerous lurks in the shadows of this solemn space station. You. Oh! The X use your old corrupted armor to create the Sax, an unstoppable gamer force that honestly scares me every time it's on screen. I think it's wonderful that the big bad for this game is the fully upgraded you from the last game. It's a neat way to both reset your progression and establish a credible threat that is constantly looming just off screen. Fusion is pretty smart about its characters and mechanics. The X are supposed to be evolving to better deal with your shenanigans, which not only explains why the enemies keep getting stronger, but also how they act. Take the blue X-parasite for instance. They specifically evolved to radiate the big cold in response to the Metroid vaccine you got. If you don't remember, Metroids aren't exactly fans of winter wonderlands. However, once you upgrade your suit, these guys end up doing suicide runs that actually heal you. After a few encounters with a new and improved you though, the X will change from bum rushing you on sight to instead fleeing for their lives.
Run.
You know I love little touches like that. There aren't exactly any levels in this game per se, just different sectors that are mostly self-contained. Fusion is pretty linear for the most part, though you're free to explore most of these station in-between objectives if you like wasting time. Even though your freedom to traverse as you please is restricted, it never impedes enjoyment. Frankly, I found it to be a comforting thought whenever I got stuck on a section to know that I wouldn't have to scour the other 5 sectors for the right secret passageway. Power bombs are your friend. The Federation, on the other hand, not so much. Some spoilers ahead if you care about that sort of thing. It's revealed that your helpful AI buddy hasn't been that honest with you. I was never fooled though. I've long since cultivated a healthy distrust of technology. You discover that the Federation has been doing some naughty little science experiments with everyone's favorite galactic bioweapon. As it turns out, the Chozo actually created the Metroids to destroy the X-parasite, much like how in the 1960s, the CIA invented the Gay to destroy Marxist collectives.
Is that actually true?
Unsurprisingly, things got out of hand, hence your actions in the previous games, but an ecosystem devoid of the Metroids allowed the X to breed unchecked. Enter the space-fed boys who want to use their greasy government hands to study and clone the Metroids for use in peaceful application.
Serious?
They send you in to clean up their mess, but when you start having a little too much success, they do what government does best. Nothing. No more helpful data transfers, just orders to come on home. They're willing to cut their losses with the Metroid after seeing the X-parasite's dog-killing capabilities. Samus, realizing the absolute state of the Federation, wisely elects to ignore them. Instead of running away, she convinces her AI buddy to help her crash this sucker right into the Metroid homeworld and kill basically everyone. Let's go! You make your way back to your ship, but are assaulted by an Omega Metroid. Luckily, the Sax springs to it's death, allowing you to finally regain your trademark orange suit. You fly off into space, satisfied and relieved until you check that ending screen and realize you got the worst one. Okay, look, I can explain, right? I did this off memory. No walkthrough. Apart from the times where I pulled out the walkthrough. It's not my fault. I swear, guys. Maybe I really am a boomer. No, it was a conscious effort on my part. You see, the faster you complete this game, the more skin Samus shows. I simply acted as any good Catholic would. I ensured that our Samus remained modest in dress, so as to not bring shame upon herself. And speaking of Samus, let's talk a little bit more about this not-so-little lady. She's smart, strong, and most importantly for any female character, silent. I tried, boys. I really did. I can change so much of who I am, but when it comes down to it,
I can't change gamer nature.
let me see what I can do here. We could just change the silent to some other S word. Sexy? No. There will be no distasteful desires desecrating this pious review. Reject females, remain pure. Jokes aside, I do think it's a good thing that Samus is silent. I want the atmosphere to ooze a feeling of isolation, and having her randomly throw out nothing lines, for no reason other than to remind you that yeah, she can in fact talk, would destroy that hard-earned sense of being truly alone. Plus, this way you get to pick out the perfect voice. I know who I'm thinking of. I was not aware of this. But yeah, if this game excels at anything, it's atmosphere. Something space joke. The music, the sounds, the foreshadowing of bosses, and of course, the previously mentioned sax are all worth gushing over. And some of these enemy designs are just haunting. It doesn't hurt that the game is pretty fun too. The combat isn't too punishing, and the steady stream of upgrades consistently make new encounters feel rewarding. There's a surprising amount of level variety on this space station that keeps the experience interesting too. I found the inner monologue Samus occasionally has to be highly intriguing at best and remarkably inoffensive at worst. Would I have liked to see a bit more character building? Maybe, but Samus was always the strong silent type, so giving her a bigger voice might be too distracting. If the game was longer than 4 hours, I might reconsider that point, but I'm not sure Fusion would be the game for an introspective look into what makes Samus, Samus. The game is short, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no sense in stretching out a solid afternoon adventure to a mundane month-long march. Just because a game is bigger does not mean it's better. Remember, a game should not be judged by the length of its completion time, but by the content of its content. All that being said, there is a tad bit of criticism I might levy against the game. I found that sometimes the keys got stickier than an unsupervised Sears catalog. More than that though, I absolutely detest the security robot fight and his pixel-perfect hitbox. You fight him twice, by the way. Eventually you get the patterns down, but I still hate when a fight feels genuinely unfair. Conversely, some fights become laughably easy if you know what you're doing. Tired of being bodied by Ridley in Ultimate? Take out your anger in Fusion by just using the charge beam against him. You're welcome. And lastly, occasionally the frame rate would take a noticeable dive during certain fights. Now, this could be less of a problem with the actual game and more of a problem with my Game Boy. But I feel compelled to mention it either way. All in all, Metroid Fusion just barely makes it into the score tier. It's a great game that's aged wonderfully, and finally got a sequel with Dread. If you're interested in Metroid or just want to waste an afternoon or two on some early 2000s goodness, I'd highly recommend. I've got some other reviews out there too, so you could always waste an afternoon that way if you like. Until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Vult, and all the rest.